It's such a pleasure to speak to you today, John, because
Thank you.
I've been a long time fan of your work, and I know a lot of fans are going to be very excited to meet you in San Francisco over that Thanksgiving weekend. And
Yeah.
over the years, we're talking about Spider-Man, but you've been part of some iconic franchises yourself with some very, very passionate fans. So I was curious to begin with what it means to you to get to meet those fans and to hear from them at an event like Fan Expo San Francisco.
Well, one of the reasons why I love doing conventions, and obviously Fan Expo in San Fran is I think it's the biggest here on the West Coast in the convention circuit. Anyway, I one of my big things is I love meeting people. I love meeting the fans. I always say to them that the reason I am here, the reason I'm on that stage doing what I do is because of them. So one of the things that's important to me is to kind of, show that back. And particularly when I do my, my panels or, and obviously it's a thing where the companies that I'm going in and working for, it's a money-making thing for them. And we're all getting paid to do it. However, I try to base it, and I was just having the discussion with Scott this morning, my husband. I've never upped my price at all in the last 20 years. I've kept it the same just because I think it's affordable for people. And also I want to show that kind of respect that I'm not gouging from them. But it's important for me to also hear kind of the stories that people tell me of how, which is bizarre still to hear it, how I've affected them or what the character has done to change their life or to make their life better. And David and I had these discussions many a time to think. I said, did you really, conversation, David, did you realize that when we were doing this, that somebody who was going through a traumatic cancer treatment would sit and watch it in a hospital bed, and it would pull them, the camaraderie that we had on camera would pull them through that illness. And it's things like that it's terrible that someone went through it, but I love hearing that we were part of their healing process. And also particularly with Captain Jack being, at the time we called him omnisexual, but being played by a totally open gay man. It allowed the majority of people that have said, seeing you on television was a representation that wasn't there. And, how you did your thing, and Jack was who he was, didn't care what people thought. And he was a good friend and a hero. And to see that really changed a lot of people's lives. So those are the things that I love to hear. Those are the things that I love about going and meeting people, and also giving people big hugs to say thank you.
Oh, that's so cool to hear. And I know obviously over the weekend you're going to be doing photos and autographs, which I'm guessing for you must be a lot of fun, because obviously you're getting to see cosplay. People are asking you to do certain poses, maybe recreate moments from the shows you've been in. And I guess with the signings, you may be seeing some John Barrowman themed merch, maybe sometimes you didn't even know existed. So that must be a fun one.
Absolutely. I didn't know I was a bobblehead. um, and also it's always interesting for me to see, and the aspect of signing, when people bring up what other artists they've done their interpretations of Captain Jack or a scenario from Doctor Who. I love that kind of stuff, particularly things that incorporate the LGBTQ colors into something. Like, for instance, Torchwood, the Torchwood tea. Somebody did it in with all the rainbow colors and all the relevant colors. Yeah, it is the photo ops. I love doing photo ops because, again, anytime the part of the fan family come in, I always go out and I talk to the line before, and I tell them that, we can do whatever they want to do as long as they are okay with it. And it's also appropriate for the situation. And, and some of the requests are a bit outrageous, and some we can accommodate and some we can't. But we've always got other people in the room to watch and make sure everything is all copacetic. But we just basically have fun, and it's great to see people cosplay, whether they're an anime fan, whether they're a Marvel fan or a DC fan or a Doctor Who fan or Torchwood. to see somebody walk in as a character you have portrayed and their interpretation, because we have a lot of, one thing that's great is the fan family, they love to kind of gender augment some of the Doctor Who characters. So you get, I call some of the people who come in dressed as Captain Jack, but it's done in a gender kind of bent kind of way, a gender bending way, that's Captain Jackie, you know, that kind of stuff. And you get people doing that's great. That's them celebrating the characters they love. And also I do a cosplay photo op. So when I do my panel to the room, which is, I always love because they're packed. I come out in this year. I don't want to, I mean, people can see it online, but I still don't like to give it away. I have a TARDIS cape that I wear now. I've had that made, and it's all glittery, and then usually underneath it, I have a jersey that's like a hockey jersey that's the front of the TARDIS, but I have all of the I have the trans, Black Lives Matter, LGBTQ colors all incorporated in on it. But I'm going to do something a little special for this week, coming weekend, because it is, sorry, on the 24th, because it is also a big Star Wars convention. And I'm a massive Star Wars fan. So there might be a cross-pollination of some fandoms, some Doctor Who, and some Star Wars, and things going on underneath that big blue, gorgeous cape.
Oh, very cool. I'm glad you mentioned Star Wars, because I know from following you on social media, you are a big Star Wars fan. And Mark Hamill, obviously Luke Skywalker, he's going to be at the event. So fans aside, I know you love meeting them, but how much fun is it to maybe meet some of your own heroes when you go to an event, some of your fellow celebs?
Well, Mark's daughter was the one who came to me at a convention, because I was still kind of starstruck. And also, I don't like to just go up and go, "Hey, I'm John Barrowman." You know, they might not know who you are, you know, because their world is completely bigger than the one I'm in. And apparently he does know Doctor Who. So his daughter introduced him to me. And then there was later on, he was doing something to do with raising money for an organization in the Ukraine. And I had seen his interview on CNN, and I commented on it, and on Twitter before it became X, and he replied, and he got back to me, and he DM'd me, and I was like, "Woo! Luke Skywalker has just been in touch with me." And I think I posted it, that, you know, kind of the joy of it all, and people responded like, "Oh my God, oh, Luke Skywalker and Captain Jack, that would be awesome." Da, 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 da. So that, yes, it's great to meet people like that. Talking about Star Wars, I remember I got in an elevator with and I met her quite a few times in elevators, Carrie Fisher, with her lovely French bulldog, and she was a character in herself, and also a lovely lovely lady. So yeah, it's great to meet other people, and I now will go up to other people and say, you know, I'm a big fan. But I feel bad, because obviously I can go behind, don't have to wait in line. Sometimes I will go to the line, and I'll say to the fans in the line, "Can I stand in here with you?" And they're like, "Of course." I said, I don't have time to go in the whole line, but I really want to say hi. Can I stand in? They're like, "Get in here." And then I'll go up and say, you know, Michael Rooker's one that I always wait in his, excuse me, sorry about that. I always wait in his line, and I'll go up and I'll be like, "Rooker," and he's like, "Barrowman, you asshole." You know, we have this banter together. And the fans love it when stuff like that happens, because I'll get them out and get them on the floor to start being, you know, like the other day, there was one, I challenged him. I'm like, "I'll put you in heels and see if you can walk in heels." He's like, "Yeah, bring it on, bring it on." Anyway. So yes, I love it.
That's so cool. And, you know, you've mentioned your panel a couple of times, and I know that's taking place, I believe, Saturday at 12:45, and brilliant name for that, Adventures with John Barrowman. So can you maybe, you know, people who are going to be attending, maybe drop some hints about what they can expect?
Well, the one thing that this is what you can expect with a John Barrowman panel. You can expect the unexpected because the way I structure it, it's almost like an hour of stand up. And if I decide that, I tell two stories at the top, which are usually funny stories from my life or things that have happened on the way to the con. I'm always looking around me and aware of what's going on to see where the humor and the comedy is in something. So I tell two stories and then I go right to questions because I like to feed. I always say I like to feed off of the fan family asking the questions because I'm a vampire. And that usually gets a laugh. But so I let them do all the questions, and usually it's about a 50-minute Q&A of me taking the questions. Now, obviously, some of the questions, depending on the age group, can be very, I say, basic. So I have to use my, way to get the question answered. But then I go off on a tangent, maybe tell a story, and it becomes something else. And so, yeah, it's unexpected. I may sing. I don't know. I usually get asked to sing at a panel. And when I'm always caught off guard, it's always hard to think of a song to sing it off the top of my head. But we usually work something out. So it's a great hour of entertainment. It's fun. It involves cosplay. There's going to be a surprise bit to the cosplay this year. The coming weekend. So yeah, it'll be a really, really good panel, and it always is. And everybody who goes to my panel says there's nothing like a John Barrowman panel.
Oh, sounds like a ton of fun. And, I know your Doctor Who fans, they're going to be excited to meet you next weekend. And I'm curious, when I've got you, obviously Russell T Davies, he's come back to the franchise, and we've now got Ncuti Gatwa, who is obviously a diverse, openly queer lead, which I think is a huge step forward for a TV show like this. So what are your thoughts on seeing Russell come back and the direction Doctor Who's heading in?
Well, Russell's always been, Russell has been passionate about Doctor Who for a very, very long time. We all know that. And Russell, in our, if I just call it our tenure, but David and I like to call it the golden age. But if that period, Russell was breaking all the ground rules and the barriers at that time anyway. Ncuti, I think, will be absolutely wonderful. Will bring a different dynamic to it, a different energy to it. Still, the excitement will be there, obviously. And I've always said to the fan family, in particular, when a lot of changes happened with Doctor Who, everyone was, blah, 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 blah. You know what? We go on the journey in the TARDIS for what the Doctor and the TARDIS and that journey stands for, and what that excitement it's going to take us on. We go for the journey. The lesson that we should have learned from the Doctor, it's not always what they look like, it's what's in those hearts that we fall in love with. But also, so it's Russell's always been the one to break the ground rules and break the barriers. And I remember him saying a long, long time ago, even with he mentioned that he would always love to have a character who is played by a transgender actor or actress. And I apologize if that's the wrong actor. I'm not sure what the right terminology is, but you understand what I mean. Sure. So a trans person playing a trans person on the show. So he's doing what he said he always wanted to do. And, even with Captain Jack, that was groundbreaking at the time. And so he's going to have another realm to be groundbreaking and open up even more doors, and rightly so. And as if, some people might get upset by it, but you know what? Change has to happen.
Absolutely. Well, I couldn't agree with you more there. And, Torchwood was a series I loved, and it could have so easily, been one of those spin-offs that sort of came and went and then was forgotten, but that hasn't happened. It's had real staying power. There's still so much love for obviously yourself and that original team and the newer characters who followed as well. But are you ever surprised to see how popular it's remained, or did you know at the time you were really making something special there?
I'm in awe of how popular it is, and I'm surprised. I knew we had an opportunity when we did it, because Torchwood was the first spin-off, if you want to call it that ever worked. There was this was before Sarah Jane Adventures, because that also worked. but Torchwood was the first one. And to think that Torchwood helped build BBC Three, and then we put back, we were on BBC Two, and we were on BBC One, and then we went to the US. So Torchwood was the first groundbreaking series. I'm not taking anything away from Doctor Who, but Torchwood was the first one to basically become that international networking, and I say for the networks, kind of leader in that way. Obviously, Doctor Who now doing it with the Disney franchise. But yeah, I can't believe how popular it is. I can't believe how strongly people feel about the characters. I also, have been very passionate about it over the years by keeping that brand alive, by talking about it, I think I've been a great brand ambassador for both Torchwood and Doctor Who for at times when it might have had a lull, and we kept it going and kept it in the forefront. And I'm very appreciative to the fan family who have been a part of keeping Torchwood alive, and still to this day, even 2 days ago, having it trend online, which is just mind-boggling. And people, I think what made it so popular, Josh, was the fact that Russell was writing about people who were identifiable to the audience, and they had the same issues, problems, dynamics, and wasn't hiding that behind what was happening. And it was all happening around aliens and a hub and sci-fi, which is basically where we've been able to do those kind of things and stretch the limits of television for many, many generations, going back to Star Trek and that famous kiss between Uhura and Captain Kirk. So yeah, that's why I'm still amazed, because Captain Jack has become iconic, and I am so chuffed by that.
Amazing. And I know every fan is going to be asking you this next weekend, so I'm going to have to beat them to the punch. But with Russell back, and obviously Disney Plus now calling the shots, and do you think we could see Captain Jack again down the line, or you just see him?
I don't know. And I've always said this, Josh, that if I am asked back, I will do it at the drop of a hat, because I love the show. I love Torchwood. I love Captain Jack. I love Doctor Who. I've loved it since I was 5 years old. And my first episode that I watched was the Autons with John Pertwee. And my mother had to hide me in her coat when I would walk past the front of a store window, because I thought the mannequins were going to attack me. And when I was signed on to Doctor Who, and with Christopher Eccleston and Billy Piper, and I wasn't allowed to say anything because I was signed at the same time they were. When I saw that the first episode was about the Autons, I knew my life was going to change. I knew I was onto something. And that's one thing why, again, if I'm asked to come back, Captain Jack and Doctor Who and Torchwood were life-changing for me. And I would never, ever, ever turn my back on them.
Oh, well, that's wonderful to hear. And of course, you're going to have a legion of DC fans as well. And you were such a huge part of the Arrowverse. That I think that DC TV era obviously sadly ended earlier this year when The Flash came to a close. But you were in, I think, 75 plus episodes of those shows all in all. So how do you feel about that world's legacy and the time you spent as Malcolm Merlyn, a character who I think just resonated with fans in a big, big way over that time?
Which, again, who knew?
Yeah.
And when I was asked to play Merlyn, I was on the phone with Greg Berlanti and the rest of the production. The production team were all there in the interview that I did with them, and they basically came to me and and said, we love, and I'm talking all the producers. They were all on I don't want to miss out any names, so if we can keep it nameless, I was on a production call. And they basically were telling me they loved Doctor Who, they loved Captain Jack, they would like to bring me in to the Arrowverse. Would I be interested in playing this villain who would be, and I said to them, how long will I be with you? And they said, you'll be there for a very long time. And Malcolm was the first character in the Arrowverse to then jump from show to show to show. And I was able to play Malcolm in different ways on different shows, which was a challenge, but also interesting because on Legends of Tomorrow, he was, which was taking from my Captain Jack years, where in Torchwood, he was the leader. In Doctor Who, he was a follower. So I was able to do that kind of thing. But the difference being Malcolm was evil as shit, you know, and just didn't hold back. I used to, the big thing when I was playing Malcolm, I always said to people, if he smiles at you, you're dead. And then, so Malcolm would always keep it straight laced, straightforward, everything da 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 da. But if he would put a smile on his face, you're gonna die, and that was it. But Stephen Amell and I had a great relationship, and Stephen is a neighbor of mine here in Palm Springs, and in fact, my husband Scott designed his house,
Wow.
and I'm the reason he moved here. Just because I, tell him to get Vancouver winters, come here when you're not filming. Anyway, long story short, I also am proud of the fan base and the fan family who came over from the Doctor Who and the Whovian world and the Torchwood world and followed me to give me a try as a new character, but then also fell in love with him. And I don't know why they did. Josh, I'd love to have the formula of when I play a character that I don't know why they fall in love with him as I do. I mean, you're talking about one of the most evil villains in the DC world, and people are like, I love him, but I hate him. And for me, that's the best comment ever. And particularly when there are couples come up and talk to me, and they're Malcolm Merlyn fans, and I'll say to one of them, if one person only says, yeah, I love him, but I hate him, and I'll look at their partner and say, they like the bad guy, and that brings a big smile to everybody's face. So yeah, I had no idea Malcolm was going to take off like that, and to be in so many episodes and to be part of that creative process to create that world, again, is just incredible, because stemming from it, as did in Torchwood and Doctor Who, my sister and I co-wrote the Malcolm Merlyn backstory for DC, The Dark Archer, which was incredible because now that is always in existence. We've written Torchwood comics. That's why I say they're life-changing, and again, would never turn my back on them. And that's why I love to go back to the beginning. That's why I love doing the conventions, because of the fans, because of the fan family, because of that love, it's changed who I am.
Yeah, well, it was an incredible journey as that character, just as it was with Captain Jack. And you mentioned the convention. That takes me back to San Francisco, because we often hear about celebrities. They'll put on a mask, maybe they'll wear some cosplay, and they'll hit the convention floor. No one knows it's them. Is that something you've ever done, or something you might be doing?
Every convention I go to, and you could put this out online, and I'm sure the answer would be, Dixie, the answer would be, yeah, John Barrowman walks around like everybody else, just as himself. And I do, because I am I'll show you, Josh, here. I am a nerd. I am a geek. I love going around and shopping and finding like the little bits and bobs. For instance, I'm a big aviation fan, and so is my husband Scott, and that's just kind of that side. But over here's all the kind of sci-fi, some of the sci-fi stuff. This is just a shelf of it. We have another house that is full of all of my memorabilia. So like there's some Star Wars stuff that I've yet to put together. I don't know if you can see it. TARDIS, a fan made this for me. There's a Malcolm Merlyn custom thing. These mugs are one-offs by a guy in Indiana called Indie Mugs, and they're highly desirable, and I have the only two Dalek mugs.
Wow.
There's my original prop squareness gun, and there's what it ended up looking like. That's obviously the man himself. Here's my love of Star Wars, a TARDIS, Over here, we have my Funko Pops. Somebody made this in the TARDIS dress. This is the original Malcolm Merlyn prototype Funko. I have
Wow.
both Captain Jack Funkos, Malcolm Merlyn Lego figure, and then we have me. And I did this as a teaser when it was Jodie's reign as the Doctor, and I used to have it online, and nobody picked up on it that I had myself standing next to her by the TARDIS to give the teaser that I was coming back. No one caught it. And then here is Merlin's laser gun from Legends of Tomorrow and the piece de resistance. Hold on, and it's in a box and it's hidden and it's got my gun on top of it so that River Song cannot come and find it. But here is my vortex manipulator.
Wow. How incredible. That is a collection to make any fan jealous. I think I'm loving Lego as well.
Captain Jack is a dragon.
Oh, as a Welshman, I definitely appreciate that. That's awesome.
I was going to say, I hear a little bit of the Welsh lilt in your voice, but there's, the Legos. These were all the builds during COVID. And I have, again, this is just, here's all the race cars and all the stuff down there. But, again, Batman, Superman. What else? There's, again, here's me going through the house to show you all this stuff. Here's the old film. We have guests here at the moment, but here's my original Forbidden Planet movie one sheet, and then The Day the Earth Stood Still over there, original one sheet. So getting back to the point, I'm a geek, I'm a nerd, and I walk the floor like everybody else. Of course, I have to have somebody with me, and I'm not allowed to do photographs or autographs on the floor because it's against the contractual obligations. However, I always say to people, I can't stop you taking pictures, but I go down to shop. Oh, I have to show you the big piece de resistance.
Oh, you saved the best for last. That is awesome.
That's it. Excuse me. I'm doing it's laundry day.
Oh, that is incredible.
So that's one of the Daleks actually, and that was not given to me. I'll show you the little bit on it. I bought that from the BBC and from Bad Wolf Productions because you see the little thing in the middle?
Yeah.
Torchwood.
Wow. Oh, that's brilliant.
Only Dalek with Torchwood on it. So that's part of the collection, and what I've always thought about doing because of it's been 30 plus years that I've been collecting, but also even from when I was a kid, I still have, my original like Matchbox cars and all that kind of stuff. I've thought about opening an online vintage toy store.
Yeah.
Because I've got some pretty cool memorabilia that, I've got every script from Doctor Who and Torchwood and all that kind of stuff signed.
Wow. Wow. I would love to see it. Well, John, I won't take up too much more of your time, but just finally, just so our readers know, obviously they're going to see you in San Francisco over Thanksgiving, but moving forward, anything else you'd like to tell our readers about where they can be on the lookout for you for?
Well, all I say in that aspect is if you follow me on social media, I'd love for if you put my social media handles and stuff there, because I don't like talking about things prior, because if they don't happen, I don't like people to be disappointed. So there are things coming up. And I know people there's some other conventions coming up, some things that might involve some singing. So just keep an eye on my social media, because the fan family will always be the first to know.
Oh, wonderful. I love that saying as well, fan family. That's such a cool connection you've got with your fans. And I'm sure they're so excited to meet you next week.
Gosh, it's been amazing and I love it. And I just want to say for everybody coming on November 24th, through the 26th to San Francisco, you are going to have a great day of family entertainment. And if you're a Whovian or a Woody or someone from DC or anywhere, you don't want to miss it.
Perfect. John, thank you so much. Hope to speak to you again soon.